Windsor Castle, one of the oldest and most legendary fortresses of England. Its walls carried centuries of secrets, wars fought, kings crowned, and whispers of restless spirits. The corridors were said to echo with footsteps long after the courtiers had gone, and the windows often framed fleeting shadows. It was here that a young prince, George Augustus Frederick, once lived. The boy who would later wear the crown as King George IV. George was born in 1762, heir to one of the greatest thrones on earth. From childhood, he was drawn to pleasures, music, dancing, extravagant banquets, and the luxuries of life. Outwardly, he smiled and charmed, but those close to him noticed something else, a strange restlessness, a void behind his eyes, as if he carried an unseen burden. When he grew older, George moved into one of the older sections of Windsor Castle. It was a part of the fortress the servants whispered about. They spoke of voices in the night, women sobbing, footsteps echoing on stone stairs, and sometimes, a pale figure gliding past the windows. George laughed at these tales. Old wives' stories, he said. But deep down, he was not so sure. The night that changed everything. It was a bitterly cold night. The castle clock struck midnight, its chime rolling through the stone halls. The corridors were empty, and the air felt heavier than usual. George sat at his desk, a diary open before him. By candlelight, he wrote, "My spirit feels uneasy, as though some presence lingers in this room." Suddenly, the door creaked open. No servant entered. A gust of icy wind swept through, and the candle sputtered before dying out, plunging the chamber into darkness. George froze. His breath clouded the air. "Who's there?" he demanded, his voice shaking slightly. "Show yourself." There was no reply, only silence. Then, he saw it. From the farthest corner of the room, a woman began to take form. She wore a flowing white gown, her long hair loose over her shoulders. Her face was pale, blurred by shadows, but her eyes, dark, hollow, piercing, locked directly onto his. George's chest tightened. His legs refused to move. The figure drifted closer, her voice soft, chilling, yet echoing against the walls of the room. "George, you will be king one day. But know this, your reign will bring you no joy. Your life will never know peace." Her words cut through him like ice. George gasped, trying to speak, but no sound left his lips. The woman's form began to fade, dissolving into mist until the room was empty again. The only sound was his pounding heartbeat. The next morning, George scribbled in his diary, "What I witnessed last night shakes me to my very core. If it was but a dream, why did it feel so real? If it was a spirit, why did she curse me with such words?" He never spoke of the vision to his family. He feared they would think him mad. But the memory of that night lingered, etched deep in his soul. Time moved forward. In 1820, George ascended the throne, becoming King George IV of England. The prophecy of the ghost had come true. Yet, just as she had foretold, joy never truly touched him. He lived in extravagance, filling his palaces with art, music, and endless feasts. Nights were filled with wine, women, and laughter. But when the halls grew quiet and the candles dimmed, he felt the emptiness gnawing at him. The words of the ghost echoed constantly in his mind. "Your life will never know peace." His marriage to Caroline of Brunswick was a disaster, full of arguments, betrayal, and scandal. His people resented him, whispering that he cared more for pleasure than for the kingdom. Behind the glittering crown, George IV was a lonely, tormented man. Servants of Windsor began reporting strange sightings again. Some claimed they saw a lady in white gliding along the staircases at night. One maid swore she saw the figure entering the king's chambers. Another servant, pale with fear, said, "I went near the kitchens past midnight and saw a woman in white walking up the stairs, but when I followed, she was gone." Rumors spread that this ghost was the spirit of a long-dead noblewoman, murdered within the castle centuries ago. Some believed she had cursed George himself, binding his fate to her words. As the years passed, George's health faltered. His body grew heavy with indulgence, and his spirit sank deeper into despair. Those closest to him whispered that he often woke screaming in the night. "Keep away from me. Don't look at me," he would cry. But when his attendants rushed in, they found him alone, trembling, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with terror. In June 1830, George IV lay in his chamber, nearing the end. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale. The air around him felt thick, suffocating. Witnesses claim that in his final hours, his eyes suddenly widened. He stared at the far corner of the room, lips curling into a strange, almost mocking smile. "You were right," he whispered hoarsely. "I became king. But never, never did I find peace." And with that, his eyes closed forever. The prophecy had fulfilled itself to the letter. Even today, Windsor Castle is said to echo with the curse of King George IV. Visitors and staff speak of the White Lady, drifting silently through the old halls, her presence marked by a sudden chill in the air. And some who have entered the former chamber of George IV claim to hear faint whispers at night. Words carried on the wind. "You will never know happiness, you will never find peace." A reminder of the night when a young prince met a spirit, and the crown that came with a curse.